The Watergate scandal had a profound effect on modern American politics. In response, Congress passed the Ethics in Government Act in 1978 as a means of providing accountability in government. One provision of the act authorized the Attorney General to request the appointment of an independent counsel by a court called the Special Division. The purpose of the independent counsel is to investigate high-level civil servants and prosecute them for violations of federal criminal law. Congress granted the Attorney General sole removal power of independent counsels for cause. Independent counsel Alexia Morrison investigated the role that various officials in the Department of Justice played in potentially obstructing a congressional investigation. Specifically, Morrison alleged that certain Environmental Protection Agency documents had been improperly withheld and that Solicitor General Ted Olson had given false or misleading testimony to the congressional subcommittee during the investigation. Morrison asked a federal court to issue subpoenas requiring production of the documents. Olson fought the subpoenas and challenged the constitutionality of the act as a whole. Olson argued that Morrison had no authority to act, much less seek subpoenas, because the portion of the act authorizing independent counsels violated the Appointments Clause of Article 2 of the Constitution by allowing appointment of a principal officer by someone other than the President. Olson further contended that the act violated separation of powers principles by reducing the President's power to remove executive officers. The trial court found in Morrison's favor, denied the motion to quash, and found the defendants in contempt for failing to comply with the subpoenas. Olson appealed. A divided court of appeals reversed, finding that an independent counsel is a principal officer, not an inferior officer. And as such, the Court of Appeals held that the act is invalid because it does not comply with the Appointments Clause. Morrison appealed to the United States Supreme Court. Chief Justice Rehnquist, writing for the majority, found that the act was constitutional. First, Rehnquist made clear that the requirement that officers be chosen by the President and approved by the Senate under the Appointments Clause applied only to principal officers. Congress was free to allow the President, a department head, or the judiciary to appoint inferior officers. Rehnquist concluded that an independent counsel created by the act was an inferior officer because the independent counsel could be removed by a higher executive branch official and was vested with only limited authority, jurisdiction, and tenure. Next, Rehnquist noted that inter-branch appointments of inferior officers is authorized by the Accepting Clause, and Rehnquist concluded that vesting the appointment power in the judiciary was both logical, given the difficulty involved in having the executive branch investigate its own officers' misconduct, as well as permissible, because the job was consistent with the traditional functions of courts. The majority concluded that the creation of the Special Division does not conflict with Article 3 of the Constitution, which limits the judicial power to cases or controversies, so long as the division did not do anything outside the specific functions authorized by the Act. Finally, the majority turned to the question of whether the Act violated separation of powers principles. Because Congress vested the power to appoint the special counsel in the judiciary and the power to remove the special counsel in the Attorney General, Congress wasn't usurping the power of the executive. Further, neither the requirement of good cause for removal nor the Act as a whole prevented the President from performing those functions constitutionally vested in the executive branch. In light of this, Rehnquist concluded that the Act did not violate separation of powers principles. Justice Scalia dissented, basing his opinion on an originalist interpretation of separation of powers. Scalia argued that the Act unconstitutionally deprived the President of exclusive control over a purely executive function, that is, conducting criminal prosecutions. Scalia further took issue with the characterization of the independent counsel, who was subordinate to no other executive officer, as inferior, and concluded that the limitations on removal without cause violated the precedent set in the case Humphreys Executor v. United States. Morrison v. Olson was a hugely important and highly controversial ruling that had a significant impact on separation of powers issues, inter-branch appointments, and the use of independent counsel. Congress allowed the act to expire in 1999 and created the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Special Counsel to replace it. Justice Scalia later referred to this case as the most wrenching case he'd decided, both because it came out wrong and because Chief Justice Rehnquist wrote the majority opinion. Rehnquist had been head of the Office of Legal Counsel, and in Scalia's mind, should have been more aware of the importance of the president's prosecutorial authority. If you found this video helpful, you can explore all of our content by visiting us at Quimbee.com. If you have a question or comment about this case, please post it in the comments area below, and we'll do our best to get back to you. If you think we did a good job with this video, please like, share, and favorite it. And if you think this video might be helpful to people you know, please share on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Google+ as well, to get this video out there. If you haven't done so already and you enjoy watching videos on this channel, click on the red subscribe button just below this video so you can get all the latest updates.